So I have a little story. There were 200 people attending a seminar on mental and physical health. And at one point, the speaker told the group they were going to do an activity. And he gave each attendee one balloon and told them to write their name on it. Then the balloons were collected and moved into a small room next door. And the participants were then asked to go into the other room and were given 2 minutes to find their balloon to exchange for a prize. It was chaos. People were searching frantically for their balloon, pushing each other and running into one another. And they grabbed balloon after balloon and then looked at it and tossed it aside, trying to find their balloon. And at the end of 2 minutes, no one had found the balloon that had their name on it. So after the buzzer went off, they all returned to the main room very disappointed. Wah, 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 no prize. So then the speaker asked the participants to go back into the room next door and pick up one balloon at random, look at the name, and return it to its owner. And within minutes, everyone had been reunited with their original balloon. The speaker then told the group, "This is what it's like when people are frantically searching for their own happiness in life. People push others aside to get the things that they want, the things that they believe will bring them happiness. However, our happiness actually lies in helping each other, helping other people, and working together as a community." I love that tangible lesson. I've also read of schools doing that with lots of children trying to find their balloons to teach them the power of helping each other accomplish tasks together. So last night, we celebrated the fact that for 15 years, we have been a community that works together to help each other find their own personal balloon. I actually overheard a conversation last Sunday that just tickled me because it illustrated this point pretty well. Forgive me if I didn't catch all the details because I was eavesdropping, but what I heard was that Susan and Austin were shopping on their vacation and they ran across a very special t-shirt that they knew Ellen would absolutely love. Now, I didn't even see the shirt, but I could hear the joy in Ellen's voice to receive such a thoughtful gift. But I could also hear the joy in Susan's voice to realize she had found something that would delight her friend. Isn't that a great example of finding someone's balloon and giving it to them? So we're all helping each other find our own personal balloon. And what do I mean by that? So I want to think about our own personal balloon as our spiritual identity. And when we assume that identity, we live as our expressed highest self. We express our best values, our inner joy is revealed, our spiritual magnificence, the part of us that is so powerful is the part that's driving the vehicle of our life. And this balloon has our name written right on it clearly. But sometimes we need others to help us find it because we just keep getting distracted by all the other pretty balloons that we see in life, right? We get distracted by the balloons that other people tell us would be perfect for us, or the ones that are socially acceptable, or the balloons that were given to us in our families because they fit their values or plans for us. But here we help each other find our spiritually magnificent balloon of identity. Here we come together for one sole purpose, to help each other unite with our highest balloon self. The stated purpose of CSL TB is to awaken the people of Tampa Bay to their own spiritual nature. That is why we exist. So when someone walks in the door, we immediately offer to see them as their highest balloon self, don't we? We see the light, we're like, welcome, we want to see your best self. But let's talk about why we come to community, why we choose this particular one. You know, you could be a lot of different places at this moment, whether you're right here in this room or you're watching on YouTube. There are a lot of things you could be doing, but you're choosing to be here. Why? What draws us together? Most of us start looking for a community because we feel something is missing in our lives. Some of us miss kind of the structure in the order of having a faith-based experience on Sunday mornings, because many of us kind of grew up that way. But for others, we start to feel lonely in our lives. We trust that we can find a place where people would welcome us and we could start looking, right? And some of us have hard things going on with big questions being asked, and we're looking for some spiritual answers. That's why they choose to try a community like this. And some of us are like lifelong seekers and learners, and we're always just looking someplace to go to learn more things, more wisdom to collect. Some of us are just wanting to be around hopeful and positive people, and some of us just came here because we heard that Randy's announcements are awesome. We heard, we've got to go hear those announcements. So we all come initially for different reasons. And I'm sure if I took a poll, everyone would have an interesting answer to that question. But a bigger question is, why do we stay? What is our community providing that has kept it thriving for 15 years? Here's what I think. First, I believe that we all keep coming back into community because here we get to have the exquisite experience of feeling like we belong and we are accepted. Deep inside, we're all tribal in nature. Human beings are interdependent on each other. And here we have found a place where we can be uniquely ourselves, accepted just the way we are, and feel like we belong. Our souls long to connect, don't they? Brene Brown says, true belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. Each one of us here, if you don't believe me, just look around. We're all quirky and we're individually awesome, right? And we sit side by side and know that unity does not mean conformity. We stay here because we can belong without changing anything about who we inherently are as we learn to hold this balloon of spiritual identity that feels really new in our hands, right? We don't need to be anyone other than who you are. The spiritual teacher Mark Nepo wrote this: anything or anyone that asks you to be other than yourself is not holy, but is trying only to fill its own need. I think I need to read that one again. Anything or anyone that asks you to be other than yourself is not holy, but is trying only to fill its own need. Our community does not need to fill anything that requires you to be someone different than who you already are. Matter of fact, we invite sharing and participation that invites you to remember your truest self and discover how connecting with that essential soul-level goodness empowers you. And because you can be your most authentic self here, you feel that deep sense of belonging. So we stay because we feel belonging and acceptance, and our conversations can be about real stuff. We're not chatting about the weather here most of the time, unless it's really interesting weather. But I think we also stay here because we are always learning and practicing spiritual principles that are transformational. And Ernest Holmes would say that we are on track because this is what he wrote: teach and practice, practice and teach. That is all we have, that is all we are good for, and that is all we ever ought to do. Teach and practice. So week after week, Sunday after Sunday, class after class, we keep coming back to learn new things and then practice using those ideas in our lives. I've stayed in this teaching almost 25 years because I keep learning new stuff, new spiritual stuff. And then I practice it, and then I teach it, and then I learn more. It's just repeated. And for the entire journey, I've always been in a community where I can do those things with others. This particular community for almost 9 years. There's something powerful about being on the journey of learning and practicing with others. Challenges come up, and we apply what we've learned, and then we share the story of how the breakthrough unfolded, don't we? Over and over, we go through all of the life changes, job changes, relationship changes, health changes, living situation changes, all of it. And we do all this practicing spiritually, and we witness each other. And that leads me to my last reason I think we stay in community. Here we witness each other through all of it. And we need a witness because, quite frankly, we're forging our own path through this thing called life. We aren't following the tracks laid down by our families or tradition. We are listening to our inner guide and following our own personal joy to set a course that is deeply satisfying and fulfilling. And it helps to have a group of people who understand that and cheer us on. The old teacher, Joseph Campbell, wrote this: if you can see your path laid out in front of you, step by step, you know it's not your path. Your own path you make with every step you take. That's why it's your path. So we're those kind of people. We're not following the path that someone else laid out. Together, we have a place where we can belong and feel safety. We can learn new concepts and actually practice them in a perfection-free zone as we are witnessed growing our balloons of spiritual identity, and they become more firmly ours. So let me get personal for a minute. So many, many years ago, in one of my early classes in spirituality, I identified 3 words that I wanted to guide my life. So some of you know, because these words have been shared a lot, because I share them because they're powerful, my 3 words are freedom, fulfillment, and abundance. And I have the little sticky note I wrote on it so long ago, the sticky's long gone. It just lays there, right? So almost 9 years ago, when I came here to Tampa, to this very community, it was those 3 words that guided me to accept this position, this ministerial role. My inner voice affirmed for me that this community was a match for me to have a greater experience of freedom, fulfillment, and abundance as a minister. So here's what community has done for me, this community. You have helped me build and live my best life. The dream I came carrying into this place was to be a spiritual teacher who shared the things that I had learned about this philosophy, a pastor who deeply loved whoever showed up in this community, and a leader who helped others grow that spiritual balloon of identity, but also their self-confidence and their ability to love themselves. And I wanted to do those things as I lived out my values of freedom, fulfillment, and abundance. That was the seed that I planted in 2017 within the orchard that was already growing from seeds that others had already planted, starting with Reverend Allen's original idea of creating this community. And as I planted my seed into this ground, I knew that it would take a group of people who would be willing to water it and fertilize it with love week after week, month after month, and you did. And one of my words, abundance, was already kind of in full expression for me personally when I arrived here, because I had been practicing that fervently for 17 years before I got here. But serving in this center just anchored me more fully in that expression so I could stand in firm knowing that abundance would be the experience of this center itself. And this community has also embraced this words as each one of you has risen into greater abundance and generosity in your own lives. We've stepped into abundance together. My second word, fulfillment. That one bloomed kind of almost immediately. Fulfillment for me meant that I felt like my work was meaningful for me and others, and that I was making a difference. So from the very first lesson about doing the hokey pokey, if you were there, all the way through the little raffle drawings last night to this moment right now, I felt deeply fulfilled by this community, this ministry, because you all reflect that word back to me as each of you find your own fulfillment in being here as you seek meaningful ways to make a difference through living spirituality in your own life. And my third word was freedom. Now you may remember a little over 3 years ago, when Terry was approaching retirement actually, I came to the community and I said, y'all, I gotta have greater freedom. I had no interest in retiring myself, so I asked that the leadership help me experience expanding freedom. You may also remember about that time Reverend Dieter stepped in as assistant minister for a few years, and then his life took a turn toward grandparenting, and he stepped back. But what happened next is pure community magic. Freedom kept rising for me, even without an assistant minister. This is the power and purpose of community. Let me explain. I have an assistant minister, but it's a role that is filled by a unified group of people. An assistant minister's job description can be widely varied, but here is what my assistant minister does. Reverend Dieter still does inspirational teaching. All of the practitioners also give inspiring and relatable Sunday lessons, allowing me to have more freedom in my travels. Rebecca carries a lot of the load of planning, administrative, and financial detail management, as well as the website updates every week, just to name a few of the bajillion hats that she wears. Ellen provides overall sanctuary and technological oversight and even loves the plants on the outside. Susan Clark serves with her whole heart in assisting me with pastoral care and knowing the needs of so many individuals in the community. And her outreach to the 12-step community has resulted in so many people finding our center. Randy provides oversight for the virtual presence of the center on social media and assures that everything we have going on is promoted in the appropriate ways to reach more people. And let's not forget, he's the announcement guru. I don't have to do announcements. Ruth serves as president of the board and helps provide leadership within the community as a whole. Randy Joe oversees wherever Randy Joe is. She oversees the children's room and makes sure our youngest souls are cared for in every way. Susan Gherkin oversees our first impression, making sure that visitors are treated warmly and embraced into a welcoming experience. Brittany makes sure that we're all feeling nourished physically, and she oversees hospitality, but she also makes sure we have a little bit of creative juice flowing from time to time in that aspect of her ministry. And Glenda and Jen partner to make sure that we get the opportunity to go out into the community and make a difference in the wider world. And then all of y'all serve on all those teams, because there's a special place for everyone on this assistant minister team, because all of you are helping with marketing and outreach as you represent the center in your lives and talk about what this place has done for you. It takes all of us. Together, you are a complete assistant minister. I am so blessed. The freedom I feel is so very real, and since it is layered on top of the abundance and fulfillment, I'm living my best life as the senior minister of this community. This is a powerful group for sure. And just as I witnessed all of you enjoying greater abundance and finding greater fulfillment in your lives, I also see you giving yourselves more freedom, and that is a beautiful thing to watch. So the question for you today is, what seed are you planting in our thriving 15-year established orchard of spiritual creativity? It's pretty rich soil to be planting in, because it is fertilized with all of the love that belonging and acceptance provides. The weeds are constantly cleared as we learn and practice and learn, and we witness each other. We are always watering in ways that keep everything green and verdant. So I invite you to plant your biggest dreams for your life here. Plant your authentic self to grow your personal spiritual power here. Bring your values, find your words, and live them out loud with this group of people as your spiritual magnificence come into bloom. I give my own example, but let's remember that others have grown their own amazing selves within this orchard, and I'll name a few. Rich and Heather brought their seed of retirement RV traveling around the country into this community and planted it where we could all help water that dream, that they grew everything necessary to live it. And wherever they are in their travels this morning, we are celebrating with them that grew for them. Our beloved Kathy, she dreamed of living her final years in a loving community, learning and growing every day in every class, going to the beach as often as she could, and dying at home surrounded by her family at peace. Our community witnessed her through every bit of that. Godspeed, Kathy. And last summer, we all watched Ree plant seeds for a more fulfilling and profitable job, and we witnessed her faithfully going back to school and helping her fellow students do their best, then land a job that absolutely delights her. I got her permission to tell her story this morning because it was a powerful thing we all watched happen. And we didn't just watch, we fertilized her ideas with our faith and support. There is great purpose in our community. And those are just 3 examples out of too many to share. Raise your hand if you can see the difference this community has made in your life. And now meet someone's eye and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. What I know is that Spirit is shining brightly on this orchard that we have growing here. Last night we shared our history and we watched videos of the many great photos where we captured the magic of this group of people. And we also laughed and remembered some of our favorite memories. Some of them were a little naughty, but that's okay. Satan. The light here is very intense, and things grow here because all good things grow here. Peace, love, harmony, connection, and joy, just to name a few, to add to freedom, fulfillment, and abundance. And so we face our bright future this morning, 15 years in the books and a new chapter to write. We planted some big seeds as a group yesterday, didn't we? At our membership meeting, that dream was big. Ernest Holmes wrote this about an individual, but I also see it will be our truth as a center moving forward into this new chapter we're going to grow together. He wrote, whatever we should know, we will know. Whatever we should do, we will do. Whatever belongs to us must come to us. And because of this infinite intelligence that is ours and that is within us now, we are compelled to recognize our good, to see more, to understand and accept and express more. That is our prayer. That is the power of community. That is the power of Spirit expressing through the Center for Spiritual Living Tampa Bay. That is the power of love. Thank you for growing with us. It is our purpose, our mission, and our vision. And so it is.